Hello, welcome to this little tutorial then for how to age or distress a playing card. That's the one that I made. Just to give you an idea of how it started, that's obviously this is spades, this is clubs, but you can see the difference. Okie dokie, so to do this, what you're going to need is some PVA mixed with water. It's PVA glue and water. It's about 50-50, something like that. I didn't measure it exactly, but that's roughly what it is. You're going to need a brush to put the glue on with. Obviously you need a work surface that you don't mind getting glue on. You're going to need tissues. Now you can use serviettes or napkins. I find that these Kleenex tissues are great. You want one tissue that's got no pattern on it, ideally, I think. These are nice and plain. Come back to that in a second. You're going to need either scissors or a scalpel or a Stanley knife. A staining agent. Now you can use tea or coffee or maybe wood stain that you've diluted quite a lot. I wanted to leave as little to chance as possible because I know Sod's Law will make things go wrong as we go along, so I tried to limit how much can go wrong. So I bought these. This is a black, this is Vintage Photo, this one's called. I wanted to get acid free in this colour as well as this one, but I couldn't find any, so this one's not acid free, this one is. It doesn't seem to make any difference. The reason I've got two different ones is just to give a little more of an effect rather than just having one colour. I'll put black all the way around the edges there. And you need something to put the staining agent on with. I just got an old towel, cut a bit off, and I just use that. One other thing, as we go along, obviously using glue and things, you need to wait for them to dry. If you're impatient like me, you can use a hairdryer. I would say if you're going to use a hairdryer, make sure you get one with a cold button on it, because you don't really want to expose the drying playing card to direct heat in case it warps it, makes it bend and things. Now when it comes to selecting the playing card, the cards I chose, the colours faded in the sunlight. This used to be red, used to be like that red. I've gone for the Royal Flush playing cards from Cartamundi. Reason for that is simply because the back design looks slightly more vintage, I think, than Bicycles. Whenever you do a magic trick with playing cards, you tend to use bikes. People have seen bikes quite a lot, so this is just something a little bit different. I think it looks, it's less familiar than the bicycle back, so that's what I use. I got these from the Amazons. I think I got 2 or 4 in a pack. Royal Flush from Cartamundi. Okie dokie. Right, now the very first thing you want to do is you take your tissue or serviette or napkin or whatever you're going to use, and you want to just separate the layers. Okay, so you just want one layer of the tissue, and then you take your card, pop it on your surface, and your PVA and your brush. And you don't want to absolutely drench the card in the glue, but you want it to get a good helping. And basically just cover the card with the glue solution. Make sure you go right to the edges, because you don't want bits of tissue hanging off. Okay, so you do that. Then we take the serviette or the tissue, pop it on top. It's up to you if you want wrinkles in it. You can sort of be a bit more careful with it, but I sort of like the wrinkles. And take a tiny little bit more glue and just go right over it. Remember, go right to the edges. like that. And then if you're very, very patient, you can just wait for that to dry. I wouldn't advise leaving it in the sun, in direct sunlight. Again, for the simple reason that, you know, it might cause it to warp or curl a little bit. So I'm going to use my hairdryer. Again, if you are going to use the hairdryer, you want to use one with a cold button on it. I only have it on, I use it on the #1 setting, and you want it to be not a million miles away. You want it to be fairly close, and you just want to keep it moving. Okay, so that's all dry. One thing I will say, as you're doing this, and that took about, I'll say less than 5 minutes to dry. When you're checking to see if it's dry, just use the back of your finger, but don't just check the card. Check around the card on the paper, because if this is still wet and this is dry, as you try to lift the paper off the work surface, it might tear into that. If that's, in fact, that's still quite wet. So right, okay, so that's now, but yeah, so you just want to make sure that it's dry all around the card as well as on the card itself. And then you just want to gently get your fingers underneath the card. Trying not to tear the tissue that's actually over the card. There we go. And just get your scissors, just cut off that bit there. We don't need that. Now, hopefully there'll be enough of this tissue left to do the back, so we won't have to use the other layer just yet. But right now we need to just get rid of the excess tissue. It's up to you if you want to do this with as I say, a scalpel, a Stanley knife, or scissors. It's up to you. My advice on this bit is to cut along all the edges first and then come back for the corners. Try to cut right up to the playing card without cutting the playing card itself. Obviously the corners are rounded, so that's why I'm saying leave them till last. There we go. And just see if there's any little bits that you've left. I mean, little straggly bits might add to it, but it's up to you. If you want to leave straggly bits or get rid of them, obviously it's your gimmick. So I try to get rid of what I can. If there are any little bits hanging off as time goes on, then that's fine, but I try to get rid of as much as I can. There we go. So you can see there that the playing card now looks faded. I'll grab another one out so you can. I haven't got any more black queens left in here, but I mean, you know, there's a black. So you can see that the ink is already faded. You could just stop there if you wanted. But once you've done that side, you're then going to do the other side exactly as before. So just see if we've got enough tissue. Yep, cool. So get our PVA and water, same as before. Cover it right to the edges, go over the edges so that you're not leaving anything to chance, and the whole of the card is definitely covered. Try not to get it on your fingers, because then you end up with tissue sticking to you instead of the card. There we go. That goes on there. Try not to dip your tissue in the glue either. And then you take your brush, a bit more glue, and just over the edges, get the whole thing. Go upsy downsy, lefty righty. There we go. And then when that's done, also after you finish the whole thing, don't forget, rinse your brush properly. Otherwise the glue will make it all sticky, all solid. Okay, here we go again. Okie dokie. So that feels nice and dry again. So want to get under there. Need to get your fingers under the card and try to lift the card. There we go. Right. Now we just cut these bits off. Now when you're coating the back of the card with PVA, sometimes PVA can get back underneath. So what you want to do is just get your hairdryer out again. Sometimes that can happen if you put too much PVA on the back. So, but it isn't really a problem at all. Need to go around removing the excess tissue again. There we go. And as you can see, there's the front of the card, the face of the card, and there's the back of the card. So the tissue also gives it that faded look as well. So you could just leave it there if you wanted without adding any stain. But what we're going to do now is we're going to do the stain. Now, as I say, I use these two things, Distress ink. You can use tea or coffee or diluted wood stain or whatever. If you're going to use tea or coffee, experiment with temperature of water. You might find you get better results from warm water than you do from cold. You don't want it to be too wet because that will remove the water will remove the PVA coating from this. Okay, right, as you can see, this is my cloth that I was using last time, and I haven't actually added any extra water to this since it came. So oh, one other thing, what I do is I have the bicycle 1900 playing cards from Illusionist. And what I do with these is I just use these as a sort of like a template so that I know where to put the stains. So there's the Queen of Clubs. You can see it's a bit different to mine, but it's mainly focused around the edges where you'd be holding the card. And I've put a little bit, you know, across the Queen as well, just to add extra, an extra dimension. So here's the Queen of Spades. So we're basically going to, you know, be putting it around the edges, and I'll be putting a little bit on the Queen herself. Less is more with this, okay? So sort of go around the edges and just spread it. You don't want it to be completely symmetrical, so having quite a lot in one space, that's fine. Not so much in another, you know, and just very lightly. There we go. And what I do with the black one is, and you may not want to do this with the red cards if you're using a red card, but with the black, I just dab that in there and literally just go around the edge. And I just feel that it sort of highlights the card a little bit. Just sort of gives it that, I don't want to say edge, but yeah, edge. And just maybe put just a little dab. Cool. There we go. And then you leave that to dry. Obviously, because we've not put a lot of ink on there, it won't take as long to dry as the PVA. And with the hairdryer, the PVA takes about 5 minutes. So you could leave that to dry on its own. It'll take about 5 minutes on its own. Just because I'm me, I'm going to hairdry it, and it should take 30 seconds really. Okie dokie, and now we do the same on the back. So you take your brown stain or tea bags. The other thing is tea bags and coffee will give you different tones. So yeah, the best thing to do is experiment and see which gives you the result that you really want before you put it on your card. If the playing card goes wrong, I'll show you what to do in that instance in a second. You can't wipe off this stuff. If you put too much on, then you have to remove the PVA coating completely. I'll show you what to do for that in a second. There we go. So there's the brown. I actually want a little bit more on there. Less is more. A lot of you might think that's fine as it is. I just want a little bit. There we go. And then we take the black one again. I know I've already done the edges, but you know, OCD. And then just lightly add a few touches, and there we go. As I say, that will dry in moments, or 30 seconds or so with a hairdryer. In fact, rather than picking it up, I will just make sure. Right, so there you go. There's your distressed card. That's how long it takes to make. It probably took me there maybe half an hour to make one, including time to dry the card and things. In fact, that might look slightly better than my. Oh, well. So there you go. This is my original one. This is the one we just made, obviously. The back looks better. I'll give you that. I might have to redo the back on my one. Now, I'll show you what to do if things go wrong. It does mean removing the PVA coating, which I don't really want to do because I quite like that one. Okay, right. In order to remove the PVA layer, all you need is a damp cloth. Now, you don't want it to be too wet, because if the card gets too wet, then obviously you'll completely damage the whole playing card. But basically, all you want to do is just gently rub on the card until you create a patch. There you are. You see that? I've removed the PVA layer there, and then all you do is just gently peel it off and roll it back. You see, and that's that's PVA glue. That dried PVA glue. Go all the way down. There you go. A little bit's all right. And then you just start that bit again. Coat it in glue. Get your layer of tissue. Put that over the top. Glue over that. Peel it from your work surface. Cut it out. Get rid of the excess tissue. And there you go. Stain it. Ta-da!